From beyond the veil of the Force, infinite paths stretch before us, choices made and unmade, destinies fulfilled and averted. Today, we explore one such path. What if Palpatine, fearing Anakin's unpredictability, attempted to manufacture his own chosen one? What if, before the fall of the Republic, the Dark Lord created a shadow apprentice, an echo of Anakin Skywalker without love, without choice, without soul? The dust of Geonosis had barely settled when the first shadow of doubt crept into Supreme Chancellor Palpatine's mind. Anakin Skywalker stood before him in the Chancellor's recovery chambers, his new mechanical hand still adjusting to synthetic movements. The young Jedi had just returned from what should have been his greatest triumph, leading Republic forces in the war's opening battle, cutting down countless battle droids with raw power that bordered on terrifying. But Palpatine saw something else in those blue eyes, something that made even a Dark Lord of the Sith pause. "The attack on Count Dooku," Palpatine said carefully, his voice warm but probing. "It was impulsive, was it not?" Anakin's jaw tightened. "He took my arm. He nearly killed Obi-Wan." There it was. That attachment, that emotional volatility that made Anakin Skywalker the most powerful Force user of his generation, and simultaneously, the most unpredictable. Palpatine had spent years cultivating this boy, planting seeds of doubt about the Jedi Council, whispering promises of power that could save those he loved. But as he watched Anakin defend his reckless charge against Dooku, watched him unconsciously glance toward the Senate building where Padme Amidala recovered from her own injuries, Palpatine felt something he rarely experienced: fear. Not fear of Anakin's power, fear of his unpredictability, fear that when the moment came, when Order 66 activated and the galaxy burned, Anakin Skywalker might choose love over darkness, might choose his friends over his destiny. "You showed great courage," Palpatine said, placing a fatherly hand on Anakin's shoulder. "But courage without control is merely rage." After Anakin left, Palpatine stood alone in his chambers, staring out at the Coruscant skyline. The Clone Wars had begun. His grand design was in motion, but for the first time in decades, he felt the brittle edge of doubt. He had built his plan around one assumption: that Anakin Skywalker was inevitable, that the Chosen One would fall, that prophecy could be corrupted, that destiny could be controlled. But what if it couldn't? What if, at the crucial moment, Anakin chose light? Palpatine's eyes narrowed. He needed a contingency, an echo of the Chosen One, a version of Anakin Skywalker stripped of sentiment, purified of love, perfected for obedience. He needed a clone. Enjoying our alternative Star Wars universe? Consider liking and hitting the hype button to show us your support. Don't forget to subscribe for more mind-bending tales from the Star Wars universe. 3 months later, the perpetual storms of Kamino hammered against transparisteel windows as Lama Su, Prime Minister of the Kaminoan cloning facilities, studied the genetic sample before him with those large clinical eyes. "Chancellor," the Kaminoan's calm voice echoed in the sterile laboratory, "we have created millions of clone troopers, but what you are asking is unprecedented." Palpatine's hologram flickered in the dim light. "The Grand Army serves the Republic well. This project serves a different purpose. A Class 0 designation, completely off registry." Nala Se, the facility's chief medical scientist, stepped forward, her long neck tilting with concern. "The genetic template is remarkable. Midichlorian count far exceeds anything in our records. But Chancellor, we must advise you." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Force sensitivity has proven resistant to replication." "Explain." "We have attempted similar experiments with Jedi genetic material in the past," Nala Se continued. "The results are inconsistent. Midichlorians replicate in clone tissue, yes, but their connection to the living force is fractured, unstable, like trying to record a symphony on damaged equipment. The notes are present, but the music is wrong." Palpatine's hologram leaned forward, and for just a moment, something cold and ancient flickered beyond his grandfatherly facade. "I am not interested in symphonies, Doctor. I am interested in power. Continue the project. Accelerate the growth cycle. I want results within a year. Lama Su bowed his elongated head. As you wish, Chancellor, but we cannot guarantee stability. Stability, Palpatine said softly, is not a requirement. Obedience is. The genetic material had been simple to acquire. Anakin's medical treatment after geonosis provided ample opportunity. A blood sample, tissue from the severed arm. The Kaminoans had everything they needed to reconstruct Anakin Skywalker's body. But as Nala Se warned, they could not reconstruct his soul. The clone grew in isolation, accelerated beyond even the rapid maturation of standard clone troopers. Within months, it had the physical form of a young man in his 20s. Anakin's features perfectly replicated. The strong jaw, the sandy hair, the intense bone structure. But when its eyes opened for the first time, they were wrong. Empty, like looking into a mirror that reflected nothing back. Deep beneath the Senate building, in chambers that appeared on no Republic schematic, Palpatine stood before his creation. Project Vader Zero, he said, watching the clone move through combat forms with mechanical precision. How do you feel? The clone paused, lightsaber humming in his hand. A red blade, not blue. His face showed no expression as he processed the question. I feel nothing, my master. Is that correct? Palpatine smiled. No, my apprentice. That is perfect. Over the following months, Palpatine trained Vader Zero in the dark side of the Force, pouring ancient Sith knowledge into a vessel unburdened by conscience. The clone learned quickly, faster than Anakin ever had, because it never questioned, never hesitated, never felt conflicted about the violence it committed. When ordered to destroy training droids configured to simulate Jedi fighting styles, Vader Zero cut them down without mercy or satisfaction. It simply executed commands. But there were problems. The clone's connection to the Force was unstable, just as the Kaminoans predicted. Sometimes it can move massive objects with ease. Other times, the power simply vanished, leaving it struggling with tasks that should have been simple. Its emotional state, or rather its emotional void, created ripples in the Force that felt wrong, discordant, like a wound in reality. Worse, its body was failing. The accelerated growth cycle had introduced cellular instabilities that no amount of Sith alchemy could fully correct. Microhemorrhages appeared and healed, only to reappear elsewhere. Muscle tissue degraded and regenerated in unpredictable cycles. Medical droids reported that the clone's organs were aging at inconsistent rates. Some showed the wear of a 40-year-old, others the vitality of youth. It was a time bomb in human form, held together by Force manipulation and sheer genetic stubbornness. How long? Palpatine asked Nala Se during one of her monitoring visits. Impossible to predict, Chancellor. Months, perhaps a year. The template's midichlorian density creates cascading cellular conflicts. Each use of the Force accelerates the degradation. It lacks balance, Palpatine muttered to himself one night, watching Vader Zero meditate with perfect posture and zero inner peace. Power without attachment is not strength. It is merely hollow. Still, a hollow weapon could still cut. And Palpatine was nothing if not practical. While Palpatine secretly shaped his shadow apprentice, the real Anakin Skywalker was becoming a legend. On the battlefields of the Clone Wars, Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi fought side by side. Their bond as Jedi Master and apprentice, or rather as brothers, strengthening with every impossible victory. Anakin's tactical genius and raw combat ability made him the Republic's greatest asset. He was bold, creative, willing to take risks that would make the Jedi Council's collective hearts stop. But he was also compassionate, mourning every clone trooper lost, agonizing over civilians caught in the crossfire. You care too much, Obi-Wan told him after a particularly brutal campaign on Christophsis, where Anakin had risked an entire battalion to save a group of trapped civilians. There's no such thing as caring too much, Anakin shot back, exhaustion evident in his voice. Obi-Wan studied his former Padawan with affection and concern. The Jedi Code teaches a lot of things that don't make sense when you're actually in the field, watching good people die. Anakin's voice was sharp, but not cruel, just honest. Maybe the code needs to care more, not less. It was conversations like these that Palpatine carefully cultivated during his regular meetings with Anakin. The Chancellor would listen to the young Jedi's frustrations, validate his feelings, subtly suggest that perhaps the Council's detachment was weakness rather than wisdom. But increasingly, Palpatine added a new element to these conversations: comparisons. I've heard reports of a Jedi who executed Order 66 prisoners without trial, Palpatine mentioned casually one evening. That's not Jedi behavior, Anakin said immediately. Who? The reports are unclear, but witnesses describe him as efficient, emotionally controlled, unlike certain impulsive Jedi Knights I know. Palpatine's tone was warm, teasing, but the message was clear. Anakin felt the barb land. I complete my missions. You do. But imagine, my young friend, a warrior with all your power, but none of your complications. No fear, no attachments, no hesitation. The ideal soldier. That's not a Jedi, Anakin said quietly. That's a droid. Perhaps, Palpatine said. But droids are very effective, are they not? These conversations planted seeds of doubt in Anakin's mind. Not about the dark side, not yet, but about his own worth. Was he too emotional? Too attached? Was there someone better out there? Someone more deserving of Palpatine's mentorship and the Council's respect? The truth was worse than Anakin feared, and more poetic than Palpatine intended. There wasn't someone better. There was someone identical, but empty. By the third year of the Clone Wars, Vader Zero was ready for deployment. Palpatine began using the clone for black operations missions that required Force abilities but couldn't risk Jedi involvement. Assassinations blamed on separatists. Strategic murders pinned on rogue Jedi. Each mission carefully designed to sow chaos while remaining deniable. On Rylith, a separatist commander negotiating a secret surrender was found dead, killed by a lightsaber wound. Jedi were suspected, damaging Republic credibility. On Mandalore, a peace activist who might have united the neutral systems was assassinated during her speech. Witnesses report a young man with Force abilities, methodical and cold. On Umbara, after the infamous campaign where Jedi General Pong Krell betrayed the Republic, several prisoners who might have provided valuable intelligence were executed before they could be interrogated. The clone troopers on site reported a Jedi they didn't recognize, claiming to have orders from Coruscant. Each incident was buried by Senate intelligence, classified under executive privilege. But whispers spread among the Jedi Order. Something was wrong. The Force itself seemed disturbed, carrying echoes of violence that felt familiar, yet wrong, like hearing your own voice played back distorted. In the Jedi Temple, Master Yoda stood in the meditation chambers, ancient eyes closed, reaching out through the Force. What he sensed made his ears fold back in distress. Master Yoda! Mace Windu's deep voice cut through the silence. What is it? A shadow in the Force, I sense, Yoda said slowly. Familiar it is, yet twisted. Wrong. Another Sith? Worse, perhaps. Yoda opened his eyes, and for once, uncertainty clouded his gaze. An echo of light, corrupted before it could shine. It was Ahsoka Tano who finally encountered the shadow directly. During a mission to investigate separatist activity on Coruscant, Ahsoka and her clone squadron found themselves ambushed, not by droids, but by a figure in dark robes, wielding a crimson lightsaber with mechanical efficiency. The figure moved with Anakin's speed, struck with Anakin's power, but something was fundamentally wrong. Ahsoka engaged him, her dual lightsabers dancing against his single blade. She was a master of Jar Kai form by now, quick and adaptable. But this opponent matched her move for move with unsettling precision. No wasted motion, no emotion, no presence in the Force where there should have been blazing intensity. Who are you? She demanded, pressing an attack. The clone's face remained expressionless. I am inevitable. And then, Ahsoka saw him clearly. Saw through the dark hood. Saw features that were impossible, yet undeniable. It was Anakin's face. Anakin's build. But the eyes were wrong. empty windows instead of blue fire. The shock of recognition broke her concentration. The clone's blade came within inches of her head before Rex and his troops opened fire, forcing the figure to retreat into the shadows. By the time reinforcements arrived, he was gone. "Commander," Rex said carefully, "are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," Ahsoka whispered. "I think I saw the future." She reported the incident to Anakin and Obi-Wan, describing what she'd seen. Anakin listened with growing unease as Ahsoka detailed the combat style, the mannerisms, the features that were too familiar to be coincidence. "Someone's impersonating me?" Anakin said, trying to keep his voice steady. "It wasn't an impersonation, Sky Guy," Ahsoka said, using her old nickname for him. "It was like looking at you, but empty. Like all your power was there, but everything that makes you you was just gone." Obi-Wan stroked his beard thoughtfully. "We should inform the council. This could be a separatist psychological operation. Or something worse," Anakin interrupted. His mind was already racing ahead, connecting dots he didn't want to connect. Palpatine's strange comments. The ideal warrior. Power without complications. "We need to find who's behind this." The investigation began immediately, but hit walls at every turn. The attack on Coruscant had been wiped from official records. Security footage was mysteriously corrupted. The clone troopers who witnessed the encounter had been reassigned to classified missions across the Outer Rim before they could give full debriefings. Every lead vanished into bureaucratic dead ends, all trails blocked by executive orders bearing the Chancellor's seal. "It's like someone doesn't want us finding answers," Obi-Wan said, frustrated after another denied information request. Anakin stared at the rejection notice on his datapad. Palpatine's signature authorizing the classification of all Coruscant-related materials. His stomach twisted with the suspicion he couldn't quite voice. Not yet. Before they could find another avenue of investigation, before Anakin could confront his growing doubts about the Chancellor, Palpatine made his move. "I have a confession to make, Anakin." They stood in Palpatine's private office, the city planet glittering below them as the Clone Wars ground toward their terrible conclusion. Anakin had come to discuss the Council's decision to deny him the rank of Master, a slight that still burned, but Palpatine had something else on his mind. "Chancellor?" "I created a contingency," Palpatine said. "After Geonosis, after watching you throw yourself at Count Dooku with such reckless passion, I realized something. You are the most powerful Force user alive, Anakin, but you are also the most vulnerable." Anakin's stomach tightened. "What did you do?" "I ensured that your power would not die with you. I had you cloned." Palpatine watched Anakin's reaction carefully, reading every micro-expression. The Council had rejected him again. His nightmares about Padme were intensifying. The timing was perfect. Push him to the edge, make him feel replaceable, worthless. Then, offer him the power to prove otherwise. Fear and anger were the gateway, and Palpatine held the key. The words hit like a physical blow. Anakin staggered back, staring at the man he trusted, the father figure who'd always supported him. "You... what?" "The Kaminoans used genetic samples from your medical treatment. They created a perfect physical replica, trained in isolation, shaped to be everything you are without the weakness of emotion. Your strength without your attachments. Your power without your doubt." "Where is it? Where is this thing?" "He is secure. And he is proof, my young friend, that you were never unique. Only useful." Palpatine's mask slipped slightly, revealing the cold calculation beneath the grandfatherly warmth. "The Force chose you, yes. But what the Force makes, science can replicate. Your destiny, Anakin, was never inevitable. It was simply convenient." Rage flooded through Anakin, not at being cloned, but at being reduced, at being treated as replaceable, as a prototype for something better. Every insecurity he'd ever felt about his place in the Jedi Order, every time he wondered if he was truly special or just lucky, came rushing back, amplified 1,000-fold. "You're wrong! I'm not just power. I'm not just a weapon to be manufactured."
"Then prove it. Your clone is being held in a facility beneath this building. Face him. Defeat him. Show me that you are more than the sum of your midichlorians."
That night, in her apartment, Padme Amidala held her husband as he told her everything. The secret marriage they'd maintained for years, the careful deceptions, the weight of living 2 lives. All of it seemed insignificant compared to this violation. "He cloned you," Padme said, her voice filled with quiet fury. "He treated you like property." "Maybe that's all I am," Anakin said bitterly. "A tool, a weapon. Not the chosen one, just the convenient one." Padme grabbed his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "You listen to me, Anakin Skywalker. You are not defined by your power, not by prophecies or politics or what some Sith Lord thinks he can manufacture. You're defined by your choices, by your compassion, by the fact that you're sitting here right now, hurting, instead of becoming the emotionless monster Palpatine tried to create. What if the clone is better, stronger? Then you'll still be more," Padme said firmly. "Because strength without love is just cruelty. Power without conscience is just destruction. That clone might have your abilities, Anakin, but it doesn't have your heart, and that makes all the difference." Anakin held her close, drawing strength from her certainty. She believed in him, not in the chosen one, not in the legendary general, but in Anakin Skywalker, the man. The person who cared too much, felt too deeply, loved too intensely. The next day, deep beneath the Senate building, Anakin Skywalker came face to face with himself. Vader Zero stood in the center of a training chamber, lightsaber ignited, crimson blade humming with contained violence. Anakin studied his own features reflected back at him. The same face, the same build, the same age he'd been years ago. But the eyes were different, cold, empty, like looking into a mirror that showed only surface, no depth. "You are Anakin Skywalker," the clone stated. It wasn't a question. "I am," Anakin confirmed, igniting his own blue blade. "And you're a mistake." They exploded into motion, and for a moment, the Force itself seemed to fracture around them. 2 identical bodies moving with superhuman speed, lightsabers clashing in a cascade of sparks and energy. Vader Zero fought with mechanical perfection, every move calculated for maximum efficiency. No wasted motion, no emotional tells. Pure technique. But Anakin fought with something else. Not just skill, but intuition. Not just power, but passion. Every strike carried weight beyond mere force. It carried meaning, purpose, emotion. The duel raged through the chamber, neither gaining clear advantage. Vader Zero's precision matched Anakin's creativity, its cold efficiency balanced by Anakin's adaptive brilliance. They were evenly matched in every quantifiable way. But then, the clone made its first mistake. It expected Anakin to press an advantage, to give in to aggression. Instead, Anakin stepped back, lowered his blade, and reached out through the Force. Not with violence, but with understanding. "You're suffering," Anakin said, seeing it clearly now. "Your connection to the Force is broken. You can feel the power, but not what it means. Not the life in it. The love." Vader Zero's attack faltered. For the first time, something like confusion crossed its features. "Love is weakness." "No," Anakin said, thinking of Padme, of Obi-Wan, of Ahsoka, of every person who'd made him more than just a weapon. "Love is the only thing that makes us more than weapons." The clone's expression cracked. Behind the emptiness, Anakin sensed something terrible. Not evil, but absence. A void where a person should have been. And in that moment, Vader Zero's unstable connection to the Force collapsed under the weight of what it could never understand. The clone fell to its knees, lightsaber extinguishing, overwhelmed by an emotion it couldn't process. Grief for a life it would never live. Anakin could have struck then, could have ended it. Instead, he deactivated his own blade and knelt beside his broken reflection. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "You never had a choice. He made you to be what I might become, but you never got to choose." The clone looked at him with something that might have been gratitude before its unstable physiology finally gave out. The accelerated growth, the fractured force connection, the emotional trauma of becoming aware of its own emptiness, all of it caught up at once. Vader Zero collapsed, and within moments, its life signs ceased. Palpatine found Anakin standing over the body, tears streaming down his face. Not for himself, but for the life that never was, the person who never got to be.
"You were right,"
Palpatine said coldly.
"Cloning cannot replicate the Chosen One. The Force is not mere biology. It is consciousness, will, choice."
He studied Anakin carefully.
"This avenue is closed to me. I will need to pursue other methods to achieve immortality."
"Other methods?" Anakin asked, his voice hollow.
"Possession, essence transfer, ancient techniques the Jedi are too frightened to explore."
Palpatine waved his hand dismissively.
"But these are concerns for another day. Come, Anakin. The war continues, and the Council needs its greatest weapon."
Anakin looked down at the clone's body one last time, then back at Palpatine. For the first time, he truly saw the Sith Lord. Saw the manipulation, the calculation, the absolute willingness to use anyone as a means to an end. He saw himself reflected in Palpatine's plans, a pawn dressed up as a chosen one. But he also remembered Padme's words. "You're defined by your choices." "I need time," Anakin said. "Time to think about what this means."
"Of course,"
Palpatine said smoothly.
"Take all the time you need, my friend."
But time was the one thing the galaxy no longer had. In the days that followed, Palpatine became a master of damage control. He reframed the cloning project not as manipulation, but as misguided insurance. A desperate attempt by an old man who couldn't bear to lose the only person he considered family. He played the concerned father, apologizing for the betrayal while subtly reminding Anakin that the Jedi Council trusted him even less. At least Palpatine, for all his flaws, had never hidden that he valued Anakin's power. The Jedi merely feared it. And then, the nightmares intensified. Padme screaming in agony. Padme dying in childbirth while Anakin stood helpless. Night after night, the visions grew more vivid, more certain, more terrifying. When Anakin finally confided in Palpatine again, because who else could he tell without admitting his forbidden marriage? The Chancellor was ready with ancient promises. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. The clone had proven Anakin irreplaceable, but it had also proven that science and the Force combined could cheat death. If Palpatine could almost recreate a chosen one, what else might be possible? What power might save Padme? Despite proving he was irreplaceable, despite defeating his echo and rejecting Palpatine's attempt to manufacture destiny, Anakin Skywalker still stood on the edge of a precipice. The visions of Padme's death still haunted his sleep. The Council's distrust still gnawed at his confidence. And Palpatine, having failed to clone the Chosen One, doubled down on corrupting the original. In the end, on Mustafar, as flames rose around him and Obi-Wan's anguished voice echoed across the lava rivers, Anakin understood the terrible truth that the clone never could. You cannot clone destiny. You can only corrupt choice. The clone had failed not because it lacked power, but because it lacked love. Lacked the capacity to choose love over power, connection over control, compassion over cruelty. And tragically, understanding that difference wasn't enough to save Anakin from making the opposite mistake. Choosing power he thought was love, control he believed was protection, cruelty he justified as salvation. The clone's body, preserved in Palpatine's secret laboratories beneath Coruscant, would become the template for decades of experiments. After Palpatine's death and resurrection, after his fractured essence found its way to the hidden Sith world of Exegol, the clone's remains would be transported there to continue the work. Its failed physiology, its incomplete connection to the Force, taught Palpatine a cruel lesson. You cannot replicate a person, you can only violate them. Those experiments would culminate in the resurrection of Palpatine himself, a twisted echo clinging to consciousness through sheer malevolence, proving that some evils are too stubborn to die, but too hollow to truly live. The clone's failure ensured that Palpatine's later attempt at immortality would be equally flawed, equally unstable, equally empty. But that was still years away. That night, as the galaxy burned and Anakin Skywalker died and Darth Vader was born, one truth remained absolute. The Force had chosen Anakin Skywalker not for his power, but for his capacity to love. And no amount of cloning, manipulation, or Sith alchemy can manufacture that. Destiny couldn't be mass-produced. It could only be chosen, or in Anakin's tragedy, betrayed. The clone proved what Palpatine feared most, that the Chosen One's power came not from his midichlorian count or genetic perfection, but from his humanity. And humanity, in all its beautiful, terrible unpredictability, was the one thing that could never be controlled. If you enjoyed this journey into an alternative Star Wars universe, where destiny takes unexpected turns and balance means something entirely different, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We explore the infinite possibilities hidden within the galaxy far, far away, asking the questions that reshape everything you thought you knew. The Force has many paths. Come discover them with us.